Are you a man looking for an intensive program to help you overcome sexually addictive behaviors? Gateway to Freedom is your answer. Gateway to Freedom is a 3-day workshop for men seeking to overcome any destructive sexual habits. Whether married, single, or divorced, Gateway to Freedom will help men regain hope for a new life of purity and real contentment. The workshop is conducted by experts in the field of sexual addiction recovery with decades of combined experience. Read testimonials of workshop alumni at gatewaymen.com. Get all the info and register online at gatewaymen.com or call 1-800-49-PURITY.
Hi, my name is Jonathan, and I'm the founder of the Gateway to Freedom Workshop. I want to personally invite you to register for our next workshop coming up March 17th through the 19th in Colorado in the foothills of the majestic Rocky Mountains. So call us today at 1-800-49-PURITY. That's 1-800-497-8748 or visit gatewaymen.com.
Welcome to Pure Sex Radio with your hosts, Jonathan and Stephen. This dynamic program is designed to educate, encourage, and equip listeners with the tools necessary for living a life of sexual purity. Visit us online at puresexradio.com. And now, please welcome Jonathan and Stephen on Pure Sex Radio.
Good day, radio listeners. Welcome to this edition of the Pure Sex Radio podcast. We're so glad you're with us. My name is Jonathan, and we actually have a guest in the studio today. Actually, he's our very own Brian Waltmann, our director of training here. So, Brian, welcome to the show.
Good morning, Jonathan. Thanks for having me here.
Yeah, so this is kind of exciting. We want to kind of start doing a little bit of these regular programs with Brian, at least on, several times a year, because he does manage our Purity Mentor training program, and we're going to start kind of helping you understand what that is this week. But before we dive into that, I want to give a couple of announcements of some events that are coming up on our calendar. One is we're going to be sharing about actually today on February 18th is our next mentor training seminar. And we'll give you a little bit more information about that later. But if you want to find out how you can register for that seminar, you can go to puritymentoring.com and go to the Become a Mentor link. Also, the weekend after that, February 25th, I'm actually going to be in Seattle at the Higher Ground Men's Conference. And this is a great one-day event in the Pacific Northwest that gathers anywhere from 500 to 600 guys to talk about the issue of sexual purity and how we can grow as men of integrity. So if you'd like to learn more about how you can plug into the Higher Ground Men's Conference, go to highergroundmen.com. I know they've still got registration open for that. So, Brian, we're going to, first of all, introduce you to our listeners. So why don't you tell them a little bit about your role here, kind of some of your background, and then we'll get into some of the specifics about mentoring and all of that.
Sure, absolutely. Well, I've been on staff with Be Broken Ministries for about 3.5 years now. Prior to that, I was on staff with another organization called the Navigators. And so I've been involved in disciple-making type ministry for many years, since the early 90s. Jonathan, you and I have known each other and have been friends since 2003 when my wife and I started going to the same church as you. And so we've just been friends and involved in church together and accountability and men's groups for a number of years. But in a few years ago, then you had extended an invitation to me to join the Be Broken staff, and so I was delighted to do that, and it's been a fun ride.
Yeah, and it seemed like a pretty good fit for us because, you've got this many years background in discipleship, because that's the main emphasis with the Navigators.
Right.
Is just being able to take people and kind of move them forward in their growth as Christians and taking them not only from conversion, coming to Christ, but then how do you actually live that out?
Right.
And so then with the mentoring program that we're going to talk about in a minute, it seems like there's just a very familiar path that you're used to dealing with men and people with. So describe how that transition has taken place and what are maybe some differences in discipleship in general, and then what you might see in what we call mentoring, and specifically to the purity mentoring.
Okay, sure. So, yeah, from on a broad scale, I'd say the words mentoring and discipling, they have really similar connotations, but mentoring has this idea of somebody who's further along down the road, kind of a been there, done that sort of an idea. And so a mentor is just somebody who's further along, who's helping somebody who's still on the learning side of things. It's kind of a teacher-student type of a relationship. And so when we talk about discipling, then we're talking about spiritual mentoring. I've heard that as a definition of discipling or disciple making, and I think that's a good definition there. And our pastor at our church recently said discipling is helping another person to become more like Jesus.
Mm-hmm. And I would almost say, too, when I think of mentoring, because as soon as you said teacher-student, I think there's some people out there that will go, well, I could never be a mentor because I don't know enough. And I think we, in the Western world especially, we have this idea that the pinnacle of everything is knowledge. There's this idea of we just have to know everything.
Right.
And I really think there's an aspect to mentoring that is much more about sharing your journey, sharing your experience. So in other words, if I'm heading out on a 1,000-mile journey and I get, 250 miles down that journey, for the guy who's just stepping on to his first day, taking his first step on the journey, now I have something of an experiential knowledge of having traveled those 250 miles.
Right.
That while I may not be an academic genius, I do have experience on that path.
Yeah.
And so therefore I have something then that I can share with that person that's just stepping on that may not have a quote-unquote academic flavor to it, but is definitely beneficial for him taking his next steps.
Yeah, absolutely. And that reminds me of the guy who led me to Christ and discipled me when I was a younger guy. He said, you don't have to be at the top of the ladder to help somebody else up the ladder. You just have to be one rung higher than them. And
That's
so
a great way to think
I
of it.
think, you don't have to be an expert and have all knowledge and so forth to be able to help another person. And so I think that's definitely a great point.
And don't you think it's also a little bit more, if I can put it this way, informal than a straight, hey, I need to learn some lessons or I need just to be taught something. So help us understand maybe the difference in connection or the difference in environment of what mentoring looks like versus, let's say, going to university or being in a class.
Well, I think the thing about mentoring and discipling, and I'm using those terms, somewhat interchangeably here, but it's the first thing is it's highly relational. It's very, very much centered around this idea of a friendship, but a friendship that's going somewhere, that has a direction and purpose to it. And so there's mentoring is personal, it's relational, it's intentional. And so it's, not necessarily an academic exercise like you were alluding to before. It's very much a, shall we say, a life-on-life kind of experience.
And I think it's important to understand that idea that there's an intentionality and a focus to it because sometimes, because I would make the distinction, you can correct me if I'm wrong here, but I would make the distinction that, mentoring and even discipleship isn't necessarily about saying, hey, this is my new buddy for life.
Mm-hmm.
It has a focus in terms of like directional of saying we're actually trying to move you
Right.
from one place to another.
Mm-hmm.
Now, because it is relational, it's not like you're saying once you maybe move to that other place that you're done
Right.
in terms of the relationship, but in terms of maybe the focus and the direction of what you're intending to do in that mentoring relationship, I think there can be sort of a, if I can put it this way, sort of a beginning and sort of an ending to it.
Yeah, oftentimes, and well, even if you look at the example of Jesus and the disciples, they followed him and he poured into them for roughly 3.5 years. And so, yeah, there was an end point to it. There was a graduation where he gave them the marching orders and left them in charge. And so, yeah, I think that there is this idea of you're trying to help a person to get to a certain point, get to a certain place where you're going to, in a sense, release them, to another phase.
So let's talk about that then, specifically regarding purity mentoring.
Sure.
So we've been kind of talking about mentoring in general. It's relational. What do we mean when we're specifically describing purity mentoring?
Yeah. Well, I would see it still as part of the whole overall disciple-making process, and it's really a subset of discipling, if you will, where it's still a mentoring kind of a relationship, but as I think the name itself alludes to, when you say purity mentoring, obviously we're talking about keying in on this area of sexual purity, and so you're honing in on that and helping a person grow, specifically in that area. And so for a lot of the people who would be helped, oftentimes they're people who would be struggling in the area of sexual purity, or maybe they're doing okay, but they just want to do better in terms of sexual purity.
Well, I think that's one of the things that we've tried to make an intentional shift on is, historically we dubbed it recovery mentoring.
Right.
And just this last year, we changed that because we felt like that's more narrow than what we're actually about. Really, what we're trying to do is we're helping people aim towards a life of purity.
Right.
And in that, then that includes or allows a whole lot more people to be involved in that rather than those who are just needing recovery. And I think it's a good point you're making that this isn't necessarily just for those who are drowning in addiction.
Right.
This is for anybody who says,
Right.
you know what, I could take some steps forward in better managing my sexuality, better pursuing a life of purity.
Right.
And so then within that, what is if I can put it this way, what is kind of the end game that we have in mind for somebody who steps into a purity mentoring relationship? If we're talking about it kind of has a beginning, kind of has an end, what are we aiming for? What's the there that we're trying to get a person to when it comes to purity mentoring?
Yeah. Great question. So, several things come to mind. I think one of the words that comes to mind is just the word freedom. We want to help men to reach a point where they're experiencing freedom and victory in their in terms of sexual purity, where they're no longer being weighted down and encumbered with these compulsive patterns, if you will. But beyond that, we would ideally like to see the men reach a point that they're able to help somebody else, that they are at a place of health and growth, that they can turn and help somebody else because they've got something that they can pass on and share themselves.
Mm-hmm. And I would say that for those who are thinking about connecting in this kind of relationship, sometimes there's this intimidation factor on the front end that says, oh, so you're wanting to take me through this pipeline with the intention and the expectation that then I mentor someone else. And if I'm hearing you correctly, what I'm hearing is, no, we just want you to be at the place where that's possible.
Mm-hmm.
You
Right.
still have the ultimate decision about whether or not you're going to mentor somebody else.
Right.
But if we can get you to a place where, hey, you know what, you're more than qualified
Mm-hmm.
to be a mentor, I think there's an incredible amount of, if I can put it this way, confidence that comes in that person that goes, man, I'm nothing like I was a year ago.
Right.
And there's a sense of newness and purpose and, like you said, freedom.
and lightness and yeah, a sense of this weight being off of your shoulders. So yeah, that's a good point. We don't put that on the mentees as an expectation that in such and so amount of time you have to be helping somebody else. And so and different people, their growth is going to take, longer, shorter periods of time, depending on where they were starting at, and depending on, how aggressively they attack this recovery journey and growth journey that they're on. So
yeah, so let's talk a little bit about why. I mean, we've sort of given a few answers here, but I want to try to drill down into a little bit more. If somebody's going to come to you and say, why is this whole purity mentoring thing why are you even focusing on it? Why is it important? What is the value of it? Mm-hmm. Whether it be to the one who's being mentored or the one who is doing the mentoring.
Right.
Why is purity mentoring important?
Sure. Number of different things come to mind in regards to that. Part of it is just that I think it's another vehicle or avenue for people to grow. We have obviously 3-day intensives that we offer, which are very instrumental in helping people move forward in a short period of time. We connect people to support groups that meet usually on a weekly basis. We connect people with counselors as well. But having a mentor or a guide, it's I guess you could say it's a little bit. It doesn't replace counseling, but it can dovetail with and supplement counseling in the sense of just having a friend, a buddy who is further down the road, who can offer advice and encouragement and accountability and suggestions as far as, hey, this really helped me, or don't do this like I did, or, that type of a thing. And so just that kind of older brother type of relationship, I think, is highly beneficial. And I would say on the other side of it, what you were asking, what are the benefits to the mentor himself? And part of what comes to mind, I guess, in regards to that is that, Jesus commanded us as Christians to go and make disciples. And so this is a way that we can live out that command and that mandate that he's given us as Christians to pass on the things that we've learned, to, again, be involved in this whole disciple-making process. And it really helps when you're mentoring and teaching somebody else. It helps you grow. It helps solidify those lessons for yourself. And even for me, being on staff with Be Broken and trying to train and equip other guys as mentors, it benefits me in the sense of helping. It puts my feet to the fire, I guess you'd say, as far as needing to to stay on the straight and narrow path myself.
Well, it's kind of like the old saying that says, if you want to learn something, teach it.
Yeah, exactly.
And so I think mentoring is very much like that. There's a way that it kind of brings the whole journey full circle.
Right.
Where it's like, take that example again of having traveled 250 of that 1,000-mile journey. And then that guy that's starting to take his first few steps, when you turn around and are able to then sort of see the journey then through another person's steps, it makes you realize all the more the steps you took.
Right.
Because you're looking at it all over again and you're going, yeah, now what did I do on mile 1?
Yeah.
And okay, oh yeah, and hey, you want to watch out for that ditch over there. And oh yeah, I turned my ankle over there, and and so you're able.
And it reminds you. I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, but reminds you of what God has done in your own life. Like you said, when you're looking back and you're like, wow, I've really.
Well, I also think one of the unrealized benefits that a lot of people discover on the journey of mentoring someone else is the joy. Jesus said it's better to give than to receive.
Absolutely.
And so sometimes we experience only one type of joy when we receive the grace and when we receive the freedom and the healing that comes on our journey of pursuing sexual purity. But then there's a whole different kind of joy that when you go, here, let me give to you what God's given to me, and then you realize, wow, that's got a different flavor to it.
Right.
I mean,
Absolutely.
they're both good.
Yeah.
But it's like there's a whole new kind of intensity to that joy.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I want to, there's two things that I want to do before we close in our last few minutes that we have here. One is I want you to share with our listeners what we focus on in terms of purity mentoring.
Sure.
And then how folks can get plugged into the training.
Okay. Yeah. Well, one thing that I wanted to point out is that we wish that we were at a point that people could call us up and say, or email us and say, hey, could you connect me with a mentor? Unfortunately, we're just not at that point now where we're able to handle those kinds of requests because we know that this problem is vast. And so where we're focusing right now is on the training and the equipping side of things. Jesus says the harvest is plentiful, but the laborers are few, and therefore, pray for laborers. And so that's really what we're doing and what we're focusing on. We're praying for laborers, and we're trying to do what we can to train and equip men to be able to help others. And so we want to raise up, if you will, an army of mentors who can go and help guys who are in need. And so that's really kind of the first phase, if you will, is the training and the equipping part. And so that's where we're focusing right now. We hope to eventually get to the point where we can respond to requests for mentors, but like I said, we're just not at that point right now, and so we're trying to really enlist and recruit guys who are ready to step into that role of being a mentor. And so the way that what the training looks like now is we have a one-day seminar that we put on here in San Antonio once a quarter. And our next mentor training is coming up on February 18th, and then we have another one coming up on April the 22nd. And so it's a one-day, 8-hour seminar on a Saturday that gives the guys enough instruction that they can begin mentoring another person. It's obviously in one day you can't cover everything that there is, but we try to give them enough that they can launch out and get started with that.
Yeah, in many ways, the mentor training seminar is about trying to give sort of a framework and a structure to what the mentoring looks like, along with what are the key sort of content pieces and principles that need to be addressed in the mentor relationship. So it's very much a here's the framework, here's the structure, and now you can plug into that.
Right.
And the other thing, too, right now, what we're doing is, while there have been a couple of instances where we have been able to sort of make connections between a mentor and a mentee, what we're trying to do is then encourage those mentors that are now trained to use that training however they see fit. They may already have a guy in mind that they go, oh man, I could go reach out to this guy. Or again, just making them prepared for when they do come across that guy. Or some of them have been open to us giving them a phone call and saying, hey, I've got a guy that I could connect you with.
Yeah, definitely. The other thing that I wanted to throw out there too is that, currently the training exists in, again, the one-day seminar that we are doing here in San Antonio. We would like to eventually get to the point where this training is available online, so that people don't have to travel here to San Antonio, or they're able to access those things. Again, that's one of the things it's on our wish list, and something that we're
it's in the works.
In the works, but we're not there yet. But the other thing that I wanted to throw out there too is that we are available to come on location to a church or some other venue if they wanted to invite us to come and put on some kind of a training there for their people, whether it's a full day or whether it's maybe a half day. Or
now it's real important for the listeners to know who can attend the training seminar.
Okay. Yes. Basically, our philosophy with that is that anyone can attend the training, but not everyone is ready to step into the role of being a mentor. And so, a person can come to the training that says, I'm not sure if I'm ready to be a mentor yet, but I want to learn about what's entailed. I want to learn about what it looks like, and to have something really to strive for. And so, in terms of the qualifications for stepping into that role, that's really for guys that are further down the road, that are walking in freedom and purity, and are doing well spiritually, relationally, and so forth. But we don't do the vetting, if you will, before the seminar itself. But afterwards, there's if they want to be affiliated with Be Broken, then there's a kind of vetting and application process after.
Yeah, there's a different, like just going through the training seminar, that's the general training. Anybody can take that, and then you can kind of do whatever you want with that training.
Right.
For those who maybe want to become a certified Be Broken purity mentor, there is another process in order to do that.
Yes, that's right.
So then how much does this cost? How much does the seminar cost?
Well, currently we're offering it for free. We do ask the participants for a suggested donation of $50 towards the program to help cover the costs that are incurred, but we don't require that. And some people are able to give more than that, some people less than that, and but we just that may change. But for now, we're doing it on a donation basis.
And also that may be a little different should we have to travel to a host site or something like that. But that's on a case-by-case basis. But the ones here in San Antonio, they're on a suggested donation basis.
Correct.
Which is great. We're excited to be able to do that, and God has been gracious in covering the costs.
Yeah, absolutely.
Of that. So
yeah, He has been.
So where can folks go to get information about the seminar, about purity mentoring, just to get connected?
So puritymentoring.com is the website where you can get more information about it. And as you said earlier, if you want to register for an upcoming training seminar, you click on the link that says Become a Mentor, or you can call Be Broken at 210-822-8201, and we'd love to talk with you more about it.
Yeah, so listeners, if you'd like more information about Purity Mentoring, just go to puritymentoring.com, and we look forward to having you back here again next week on the Pure Sex Radio broadcast.
Pure Sex Radio is paid for by Be Broken Ministries. Visit us online at puresexradio.com.